Time for another edition of Retirement Elevated with Sean Lee. And Sean, let's talk about, do you really need an advisor this week? Look, the DIY thing is, more popular than ever in all kinds of aspects. We just did a prior podcast, a couple of weeks ago about, transitioning if you're out of employment into something else. And a lot of people have become their own financial pro, right? Everybody under the sun can call themselves an advisor these days. So I had an interesting email that we got into the program, and I wanted to just kind of talk about it a little bit. And it just framed a nice, simple thought. Hey, if I'm a smart cookie, I've done really well with my portfolio the last couple of years. Do I really need an advisor? So let's talk about the pros and cons of that this week. How you doing?
Sure. I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. So as an advisor, when you see something like that, what's your first response?
Maybe you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality of it. Maybe you don't need an advisor, and that's okay, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so I don't ever go down this path of saying, hey, you have to have me as your advisor. You don't have to work with, one of our advisors on staff.
Right.
You don't need us, or maybe you do need us. We're not gonna. I'm not going to try to I use it, I don't want to pull a sled that's in reverse, that's going in the other way. Right.
Yeah. If you're fighting it. Yeah.
Like all I'm going to do is just going to dig into the dirt. It's going to be really hard to pull somebody that way.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't need me, and that's 100% okay. However, maybe you also do need an advisor, but you just don't know why.
That's what I want to talk about. Right. So the framing of the question was, look, the market's done really well. Okay. So let's start there. Right. So the market the last 2 years, the S&P ended up 20+%. Right. Great. No argument there. If you're being honest, we haven't had a prolonged downturn, Sean. We're approaching 20 years. 08, 09, 07, 08, right? So we're approaching 20 years of without a prolonged downturn. We've had blips, we've had downturns, right?
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about, as a DIYer out there, I've been building my wealth, right? I've been growing my money. Yeah, it's easier when the markets are well, right? And it is the easier function. Going up the mountain, as just your guys' logo too, right? Going up the mountain is a whole lot easier than coming back down it. And that's what retirement is.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, the rules of engagement when you're saving. So the rules of engagement for me, I'm 44 years old. I'm saving, are different than my mother's, who's 70. Or
different than mine at 53. 70. Yeah, exactly.
And what she needs is completely different than what I need in my plan.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And when we start to look at planning to transition to retirement, there are areas of concern and issues that could potentially hurt you in an unlucky period of time.
Bad market. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So are you taking too much? Risk would be the first place I would ask that DIYer. Are you growing? What's your age? And at one point, are you starting to pare back a little bit? Because tech is overweighted. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. We got the tariff conversations happening left and right. We're going to see some volatility as things start to have to get smoothed out. We're seeing a lot of wins, I think, that will hopefully translate down the line from an economic standpoint, but it may take it a year. What happens if it goes south for a year?
So look at 3 10-year periods. What happens if you retired in 1999?
Okay.
What happens if you retired in 2009? And then what happens if you retired in 2019?
Okay.
So those are just
1999
was, hey, I'm riding high. I'm doing great.
Riding high. Whack. Lost decade.
2001, 2002. 2009, you probably just didn't retire.
Yeah.
Because you got hammered.
Yeah.
Now you're in 2019. Things look pretty good.
Yeah.
I've had,
things look pretty good. Then COVID happened. Right.
Yeah. But it recovered.
Right. But the lasting effects, I think, from the inflation standpoint, the budget, right. Or the deficit, $36 trillion, right. Does taxes go up? All those conversations have certainly been magnified.
Yeah. So I look at, just those 10-year windows. Out of those 3 10-year windows, 2 of them, it was a battle.
Yeah.
Right. 2019, things have been pretty good, or since 2019, things have been pretty good. Your incomes, if you're pulling them out of the market, have probably been okay. But that's the first thing we look at is, one, how are you going to create income? Because you can only create income one of 3 ways. And every person in America falls under I'm going to create income based on protected dollar, like using protected accounts. I'm going to create income using the markets. And I tend to lean towards dividends. That's my personality. Or I'm going to create income based on a combination of those two.
Okay.
So protected money, market money, combination. Those are your choices. Now, the vehicles that you use inside of there, inside of those three areas are different, but that's it. I mean, give me another option: protected, market, or combo. Now, Sean, real estate. Now that's market. That's exposed, right?
Okay. Okay.
So when we start to look at that, yeah, income's one thing, but how you're going to draw income out to help protect you from ups and downs in the market.
Yeah.
But then where are you going to pull money from?
Yeah. Which one are you pulling it from first? And that's kind of where I wanted to walk this into, Sean, was like, okay, so if you're just focused on the accumulation phase and growing the money, that's great, which many DIYers are. Nothing wrong with that. But then you start thinking about, what is the tax ramification to these different kinds of accounts? What happens when I turn the income lever on this one? What does it do to the other ones, right? So like there's all these little pieces that you got to start to factor in, because being an advisor is more than just the portfolio growth.
Yeah. I mean, it should be.
Right.
Like that's one piece to the puzzle, right? Like we can handle your investments, sure, no problem, but we're not going to do that unless we've built a plan that we know exactly how the investments need to be managed to accomplish your goals.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense to do it any other way.
Yeah, very true. And so another kind of, I guess if we're doing the cons of, kind of this email question, again, the pros could be, hey, you're a smart person. You absolutely can do it. I think the tools, the technology now does make it a lot easier, but you've never planned your own retirement, right?
Right.
So the big question that would pop out to me, right, is like, do you want to? Like, do you want to get to retirement and actually just spend all the time dealing with this stuff? Or do you want to like hang out with your grandkids and like do stuff?
Go golf, go volunteer, garden, ride bikes, hike, whatever.
Do nothing. But I don't care, right? But just enjoy it.
Well, and here's the other side to that. You may like to do that. But does your spouse, if you have one?
Oh, you're talking about the DI, like you might like to do the money. Yeah. Do they? Yeah. And what happens if you croak and you're the one doing it?
Or do they want to deal with you being stressed out every single time the market corrects?
That's true.
A couple weeks ago, the market goes down 700 points. How exciting is that of a day for the person who doesn't want to manage the money because you're upset? Oh my gosh, we were down 7% or 700 points, down 2%.
Yeah.
Day's ruined,
And really 2%, right? But it's like, the media will do that, right? It fell 2%. Oh no, the sky is falling. It's like, it's 2%, relax, right? So there's a lot of little variables to this question, Sean, that I find interesting. And again, you may be right. You may be able to totally handle this, but I think taking a step back, and I really like those two frames of conversation there. Do you really want to do all this in your retirement years? And does your spouse, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's a big piece of that puzzle.
Well, and are you as prepared as you think? So we talk a lot about getting to an 8, 9, or 10 on your retirement scale, of confidence scale. Yeah. And certain things have to happen to be an 8, 9, or 10, whether it's income, investments, taxes, healthcare, or state. And once you go through a process and really start to talk about those 5 areas, if you're an 8, 9, or 10, great, we'll tell you. But through a series of questions and conversations, we may find that maybe you're a 5. Maybe you're a 6. There are no 7s. We don't allow 7s because 7s could go either way. You're a fence sitter and you haven't really quite decided what you need yet.
Okay.
But if you're below a 6 or below, you have some areas of concern that should probably be helped and addressed by an advisor.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're an 8, 9, or 10 in everything, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hats off to you.
And I find it hard to think that many people will be there, Sean, in all the categories that they need to be. Not just the accumulation, right? Not just the portfolio. Because that's where, again, the hang up is. How many times have you heard in doing this profession that, you help people pick their stocks, right? You're a stock picker. It's like, well, no. Yeah. A broker, maybe, yes, but that's not what I am, right?
We help people make decisions that fulfill themselves, fulfill their retirement needs.
Yeah. What are you doing about Social Security? And what's your income strategy between the two things that you're turning on? Oh yeah, have you thought about how that's going to affect possibly IRMA? No, you didn't know about that. Oh, okay, right. This kind of stuff. Right. There's a lot of little nuances. Again, coming back down the mountain, it's a lot more complicated.
Right. And honestly, the more money that you've saved, the bigger your problems become.
Sure.
Because it's not just, oh, I need to generate income. You start to look at, do I simultaneously pull from various accounts to keep my taxes low? Do I adjust when I pull Social Security versus when my spouse does?
Yep, there's another one. Yep,
taxation low, or maximize Social Security down the road for the surviving spouse. Do I do Roth conversions? If so, how does that affect my Medicare premiums down the road?
Yep.
There's a lot of, and we're kind of spitting out a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, if you can't sleep at night and you can't say that I'm an 8, 9, or 10 in all 5 areas, you probably need to talk to an advisor.
Yeah.
Whether you hire an advisor or not, that's not the point.
Right.
You need to talk to an advisor.
Yeah. And to your point, we're spitting out a lot of stuff, but I think that was the point of the person's email. Hey, I'm a smart person. I've done well, growing my portfolio. Why do I need an advisor? These are some of the reasons why, and maybe we'll I'll finish it with this, because we touched on the family aspect a little bit, but we kind of didn't drill down on the succession plan. So let's just talk about that real fast and we'll kind of wrap it up. So if you are the one doing everything and you pass first, what's the succession plan? Like, Sean, you run a business, right? So if you were to pass away, you have a succession plan as a business owner about how your clients are still getting served afterwards. Correct?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
my wife's not going to be the advisor. So
right. So if you're a DIYer, is your spouse going to be the advisor for themselves when you pass? And do they know it? Because have you talked about that succession plan?
It's crazy. You bring that up, and we actually have families that we work with, not necessarily on retainer, but hourly.
Yeah.
For that specific reason. Hey, we built the plans for a flat fee.
There you go.
I like to manage the money still on my own, which is fine.
Yeah.
But my wife, Sally, does not like to do it.
Right.
So when I die, I wanted to have already hired you as an advisor.
Yeah.
And my plan, my situation. So when I pass, then it's an easy transition for my wife to continue her lifestyle.
Yeah. Or any heir, right? So when something happens, here's the card, call Sean, right? So like maybe you and the spouse pass away at the same time, God forbid, right? But maybe you do. So now the kids, they don't know anything about your financials because they were never part of these conversations. So at least they have someone to talk to.
Well, and I mean, we've gone as far as creating allocations based on current needs. Mm-hmm. So because what we don't want to have happen is a spouse pass away and then have to make big financial decisions.
Right.
Okay? So we'll build a plan. Say, okay, here's the current allocations, and we'll revisit them from time to time when we meet. But here's the allocations if you were to pass away. Mm-hmm. So everybody's on the same page. And it's okay, now we've got to move the money in. Here's the allocations we discussed. And there's no decision making because we don't want there to be decisions made during 6 months to a year after the fact. Yeah. So
great point.
There's a lot of front end work that you can do on that. Even if you don't necessarily want to hire an advisor to do all the investment management.
Right.
You can hire for fee or for, hourly or whatever.
Okay. So takeaway, final thoughts then as we wrap up, again, we see these kinds of questions again, nothing wrong with wanting to do it all yourself, but what's your final takeaway?
Don't wait till it's too late and put your family at risk.
Okay.
Health or death.
There you go. There you go. All right. If you got questions, need some help, reach out to Sean and the team. Hey, just get a consultation and see, especially if you're somebody like this person who sent this in, say, hey, bring your stuff in. Let's sit down, take a look at it. And we'll let, I'll be honest with you, right? I mean, you're going to pat somebody on the back and say, great job, send them on their way if they don't need you. Right. But then you might be able to say, well, here's a couple of areas that you didn't think about, so let's take a look at that or whatever the case is. So I think sometimes people feel like going to see an advisor is going to be a major overhaul to whatever they've been doing, right? Or something like that. And oftentimes it's just little tweaks here and there that can make a big difference.
Hey, a 15-minute phone call We'll help you determine if you're an 8, 9, or 10 in all 5 areas.
There you go.
15 minutes.
It's not just for Geico and insurance. So
That's right.
All right. If you got questions, need some help, check the links below. Give them a call, have a chat, and see if it fits for you. Great question. Thank you so much for listening. We certainly appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, leave a comment, all that good stuff. We certainly appreciate the feedback because it helps us with some content to talk to you guys about. So if you've got questions, need help, reach out to Sean and his team, and we'll see you next time here on Retirement Elevated with Sean Lee. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
This video has been prepared for educational and marketing purposes only. The information in this video is general in nature, does not constitute personalized investment advice, and does not provide a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. All investments involve risk, and different types of investments involve varying degrees of risk. There can be no assurance that any specific investment strategy will be profitable or suitable to you. Additionally, although information presented in this video is believed to be factual and up to date, we do not guarantee its accuracy. You should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation and should consult a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies mentioned in this video. Investment advisory services are offered through Elevated Capital Advisors LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor affiliated with Elevated Retirement Group LLC. Registration as an investment advisor does not constitute an endorsement of Elevated Capital Advisors LLC by securities regulators, nor does it indicate that the firm has attained a particular level of skill or ability. Insurance advice and products may be offered by a third-party insurance producer, which may be affiliated with Elevated Retirement Group LLC and Elevated Capital Advisors LLC. Mark Killian and Third Wheel Media LLC receive compensation for their assistance in preparing and hosting this video.